of the data showed that the entire country
If I go back to scallops,
in 2024, but now I'm seeing
I can get a lot of
Democrats winning
really
special
expensive loot
elections.
if
Is
I
the
survive.
pendulum swinging back towards blue, or are we being misled? What are your thoughts?
Well, all 50 states and Washington, D.C. ran right.
But I'm gonna see if I can get this. What is this? What is this?
So that was something that everybody's pointed
It's
out.
that town I need to go to.
Almost all of the counties didn't see. So
Use
Harris
it.
went backward just about everywhere you could find presidentially. And in the long
Kill the
run,
camper.
Democrats,
Yep.
especially if current trends continue,
All right.
28 out of 30 states are redder or less blue. 30 states are registered by party. 28 of those 30 are redder or less blue than they were when Trump won the election in 2024. So long-term trends for the Democrats look bad. Special midterm and
Yeah.
elections.
Do this in the morning.
Against the president's party, and I'm really not concerned with those results. And if I were
Yeah.
concerned, then I'd have to be way too,
I wonder if they'll let me sleep in this bed still.
who no longer is there because he won an off-year special election against the Democrats right after Obamacare passed. So people need to stop reading so far into special elections. Midterms are also not predictive of the next presidential election. Midterms almost always go against the president's party, which is why I think that we need to understand that dynamic so we can accurately target the seats that would allow for the GOP to hold a House majority, which I don't think is likely.
Okay. There's a lot of black pillars on the internet, doomsday people saying this election is already lost. Let's move on to winning 2028. I'm not there.
I don't know if I get woken up.
Be mentally weak. I know that there's a lot of stuff.
It's been
that
like
needs to happen, but we're not trying to
2 months since I slept in this bed. I guess it's just a guest bed. There's so much I don't know about this game yet.
On making sure we get across the finish line in order to keep that majority.
I have 39 seats that are likely to determine the winner of the House. Now, the realistic assessment of the House is that neither party has a high ceiling nor a low floor. This is because of the gerrymandering with red and blue states. So, whereas we used to have presidents like Obama would come in with over 250 House seats, or Trump had more than 240 in 2017, you don't have that possibility for either party in the way I see it. I think the winner is likely to hold 220 to 229 House seats, and I have 39 that are the ones that are decisive. So that's a very small portion, not even 10% of all available House seats.
Okay. Let me get your thoughts on this. President Trump last week said we need to immediately redo the national census. American citizens only. You've got to prove that you live here. We're not just counting bodies. I've been covering this. I'm sure my audience knows this. If that had been done fairly and honestly, we would also have more House seats and more Senate seats. Your thoughts on him immediately calling for that to be done?
Yeah, that's a big problem. I first started going into the census data in 2023. And what is amazing about this, and why it's difficult for the mainstream media to attack the way I do analysis, is that this is the government's own admission that they botched the 2020 census. They expressly admitted that they overcounted some states and they undercounted others. And almost all the states they overcounted, there were a couple exceptions, were blue states. And almost all the states that they undercounted, with a couple exceptions, were red states. And I got the math on that, anywhere from 12 to 16 electoral votes and thereby U.S. representatives short of the Republican coalition of states. So instead of 235 electoral votes being the basic start point for Trump, it would have been more like 247 to 251 being the starting point. So that's a big deal. And when we fix that in 2030, which the president must make sure that happens, and then the natural reapportionment of the population changes from 2020 to 2030 take over, you're going to have a sea-level change favoring the GOP, which is why any short-term losses, like maybe the 2026 midterms, are going to be short-lived indeed. But it's important that we exclude the illegal aliens from the count, and also the non-citizens from the count, because they are bloating and propping up states like California or Illinois, New Jersey, New York, Washington State, you name it.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm a long-term thinker, so that is very good news. Although, like you, I would like Trump to keep the majority because I believe they're going to impeach him over and over again. But if he can keep the Senate, and we don't have a bunch of rhinos that throw him under the bus and stab him in the back, I think he'll be okay. And eventually, the American people say, enough with the impeachments. Like, just let him finish out his 2 years and go back to Mar-a-Lago. Your thoughts on that? Is keeping the Senate okay for him
really swung in his favor.
It's out in the woods
He was
somewhere.
a hopeful president at that point. Of course, then there was an assassination attempt involved in Pennsylvania, which further pushed sympathies
Time
for
to
him.
test out my
So
new
what
hammer.
happened is this: Dems win the House, which I would call 75-25 likely today, which actually is a better odds for the GOP than history would suggest. Then they will definitely try to impeach Trump as often as possible. And what will inevitably happen is the economy will
Yeah,
recover.
this horse is a little bit faster than Pebble.
People are going to be happy with that. They're going to be irritated with the
Although I paid
efforts
like
against Trump.
1,300 Goshen for this thing.
They would have done so after January 6th, and they did not. So
It's a tier 1 Trojan. I'm kind of hoping to find a tier 2 and tier 3 Trojan.
people more towards the Republican Party in a presidential year coming up in 2028.
Too bad there's not a Spartan horse.
So it doesn't worry me, but of course I want the Republicans to win the House. I'm just
Yeah.
in 20 out of 23 midterms since 1934, the president's party loses seats, so there's not much ground to lose for the GOP as a whole.
I think I'm getting pretty close to it.
One thing I'm looking forward to the most in 2027 is just being done with Mitch McConnell.
Yep, almost there.
Like,
Right around this
we
bridge.
can get in someone that supports Trump in the last 2 years. It's going to be really great. So I see 3 major bombshells that Trump has put forward. We've got the Supreme Court.
These are not bandits, these are Cubans, so
Election day.
I'm 50-50 if I'm going to be able to do this.
After election day.
I might have to go train a little harder.
And then 3, this birthright citizenship.
Yeah, the Cubans are trained soldiers.
These are game changers, but for me, I feel like the one that could get enacted into
So I got, like I said, as long as I can take on one at a time, I should be all right.
Court saying it is illegal to count ballots after election day 90% of the time it ends up going to a Democrat. Your thoughts on can that be implemented before the midterms?
It depends on how fast the ruling comes out. Of course, the left will try to tie it up.
I think I found him.
I do think that the Supreme Court is going to squash late arriving mail-in ballots in these counties because all 6 of the Republican-appointed justices had very serious quotes about how stupid it is that we're counting ballots after election day, focusing on the literal term election day. So I feel optimistic about that. What I think it does is it opens up more ground to then bring cases about the front end of elections, where you have some states that start voting as early as September.
Shit, there.
Minnesota, Virginia, Pennsylvania, come to mind, and starting to amp that up to make things a little bit more fair across the board. So all
Yeah.
set up with the issues where the legislature will not act. So I think we need
Yeah.
as far as that goes. I don't feel so optimistic that they're going to squash birthright citizenship, which they should. But there's a couple of the Republican-appointed justices that I think are going to be squishy on the issue.
Yeah.
Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
You're saying we see and we're here to show.
Let's go.
Okay. I'm all in on making mental health easier. Younger people have more energy, faster healing, and better heart health because they naturally make more nitric oxide. Over time, nitric oxide drops sharply, which is why someone over 60 has half the amount of nitric oxide as a 50-year-old, and seniors have even less. This can be disastrous for your health, energy, and healing. Scientists won the Nobel Prize in 1998 for discovering how nitric oxide affects the cardiovascular system. When nitric oxide is low, you feel tired, your joints ache, blood vessels harden, and sexual performance suffers. That's why I drink Cardio Miracle every day. My blood pressure went from 160/99 down to 119/73. I was able to come off my medication. I've noticed clearer thinking, energy, and better sleep. Right now, Cardio Miracle is giving my audience the best price on the 60-serving bag. Plus, if you subscribe, you'll get a free 30-day travel pack for first-time buyers, additional savings, and free shipping. Check the link below. The cost is less than a pound of soda drink and good for your body. Go check it out right now. Just real quick on this.
Everybody didn't even bother to back him up.
Something it hasn't done in a long time. The Republican running against the Democrat was endorsed by President Trump, who has a 90% success rate when he endorses. They've caught this guy on camera stealing election equipment. Do you see that election being redone, an investigation, or do people go, well, at least he went to jail and we move on and just trust the election outcome?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see the outcome uphill if it's found that the crime does not have anything to do with the election result, the votes cast itself, but it may have repercussions as far as things taking proceeding. Once again, that's going to be a seat that's going to flip back in November. There was one in Fort Worth.
Damn it, they won't let me grab the sword. Oh.
Really low turnout. So
Common saber. That might be worth some money.
37,000 votes.
I didn't take too much damage. I should go try and kill another one.
So they're not as engaged. The other one circles it on the calendar.
42, that's not bad.
Okay. So most Democrat leaders right now that are against the Save America Act, they won in areas where they have more votes than voters, and many of them won in areas where they just have hundreds of thousands or millions of mail-in ballots. We don't know if those are being checked or the signatures looked over. Is that concerning to you? It is to me.
Yes. The man who wrote the foreword to my book that we're going to talk about, Newt Gingrich, he made a point to me one time that he doesn't think elections are stolen. He thinks they're rigged. And when I did my reviews of the 2024 election, I reviewed the laws that the states have, which of course were fundamental toward building the 2020 and future results. And all these blue states, almost all of them, have automatic voter registration. Then they have extensive or universal mail-in voting, and then they have ballot harvesting where they have that. Now, some of the blue states have tougher laws against ballot harvesting, but they've got voter registration, or in the case of Maine, you have ranked choice voting. So they have all sorts of issues that are used. There are laws that are used to sidestep strong elections that people have faith in. So it does not surprise me that certain outcomes favor Democrats in states where the laws are made to ensure that they maintain a grip on power. Prior to the 1990s, you had states trade off power no matter what state it was. The coalitions would always change, and they would universally get rid of bad government. But in the case of Washington State, there hasn't been a Republican governor since 1985. So something has changed with the laws. We know what it is, and that is why we see a lot of the outcomes that we have today.
I want to jump right into your book that you have coming out. American War on Election Corruption, the crusade to restore trust in voting. I know that this is a bestseller in at least 3 different areas. I'm going to put a link to that. Help my audience understand. You are known for gathering immense amounts of data and then being able to consolidate that and review the patterns. Tell me and my audience about your new book.
Well, the most important thing about all that data is just making sure that people understand it and can relate to it. Now, a lot of people get really long from these granular with data in a way that doesn't tell the story, and they lose the audience. Now, my story is a bit interesting because I was pulled into the battle for election integrity in the waning days of the first Trump administration when we were still trying to keep him in office. I've been able to amass a ton of research county by county, 3,143 counties and independent cities in the United States, and then compare the laws for the 2024 election against systemic accurate predictions, which even the in August of 25, the historian Larry Schweikert reached out to the independent contact with Postal Press, who he's done business with, and they asked him if I had a book. Now, I've been asked this a number of times whether this is all my Substack, if I were to write a book, and my answer always been the story was there, chapter 1. But I took that kind of as one of the jobs because I needed to start to have a story and a good stopping point, and there came the election corruption. And this is an expose on our election system as not just the 2020 election. This is not a crisis. In fact, I've got well over 100 people cited in this book. I haven't had to fight with the DOJ yet because they don't want to talk about this. They know it's unimpeachable. And it's a bit of a personal story about personal occasions. So if you're one of these folks watching the show and you're stuck on next week's data, I'm telling you my story. And then I'm exposing the corrupted election per the Patriot Pennsylvania responsibility, the president is going to have legal copies this week. And there's a number of people that are sponsoring copies from the state legislature, and I've got a ton of them from around the country showing the website. The American Bar of Legal Corruption is deciding to change the minds of most felons with multiple party affiliations, and then bring potentially get into the middle of the election. Like Charlie Kirk is to make sure that he didn't come up with too radical or far off from where the election was, which is another great reason to save America Act is successful because it's getting but the book has been a tremendous success. I think it's going to be a preeminent book on election corruption in this era, and they supported it out of the gate. I look forward to going through my copy and better understanding it. I know as you digest all of this data, you see the country shifting red. It sounds like even with all the black pillars and the negative news, you're still very optimistic for our future going forward. I am. It's a long-term fight. If you base your success on every short-term outcome, then you're going to lose sight of what we do as a community for people 30 years, 50 years. I think a lot of people that pop their heads out of the social media and learn and read history, especially history informs us more about what's going to happen in the future than anything else. And of course, you always have to see your pushback. And the country's not going to live or die based off of what's going to happen this election. Remember, every election is about the same. Since I've been old enough to vote, every single election is the most important election in the history of the country. All right, we need to come down off of this craziness. Not everything can be a sprint.
What the hell?
Consistent success, getting good
You must have
legislation
bled out.
passed when you have majority. And ultimately, if you want to not be worried about midterms, well, then you need to just lose the presidency. And then you won't worry as much about midterms. And I don't think anybody wants that. So we are in the best position of the two. We just need to figure out how that's going to move forward. We need to have more than just Donald Trump leading the global conservative movement, which I don't know that I like the term conservative anymore. But leading the America First movement, we have to have more people stepping up, regular folks running. And I'm married to an Arizona state legislator. And we are grassroots funded. We don't take big lobbyist donations, and the result of that is we got to scrap for every dollar. We got to knock every door, and it's a lot of hard work. And because people don't want to do that, we're stuck with the same people going back, and that's why we have what's going on with the Save America Act in the Senate today.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I'll put a direct link to your X as well as your book. We'll have you on again in the future. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
I appreciate that, Steve. Keep up the great work.
Not use that bow. That might be worth something.
Join the millions of people on Been Verified who've been able to build their family tree, reach out to lost connections, and uncover their family legacy. Find unknown relatives, connect the dots between generations, and piece together your family's unique journey.
So, Victor, let's get your thoughts about J.D. Vance, who's been much in the news the last few days, and he gets into 3 areas. One, calling into Joe Rogan. 2, calling Netanyahu and chewing him out.
That was
and
a leader
3,
right here.
publicly attacking Ilhan Omar,
Mask
Congresswoman, for
and a
marrying
helmet.
her brother. Your thoughts on what Vance is doing and on these things in particular?
Well, he's doing what the traditional job description of vice president is. It's go out, take flack. Remember Spiro Agnew, nattering Natos of negativity? Negativism, I think. Negative. Yeah, whatever. And so that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to shield the president, take the flack, and detour his enemies. And this was a multifaceted week. So with Joe Rogan, people should remember Joe Rogan endorsed Donald Trump on the last day of the campaign. So he wasn't, and he had voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary in 2020. So and he was part of the entourage with RFK, and Dana White, and Tulsi, all those people at Madison Square Garden. So he's I, he's apolitical in one sense, but I would say that his heart is socially conservative, but maybe left-wing politically.
Victor, I don't think everybody knows essentially what he said.
Yes, what he said was two things. One, that he was disappointed that the supporters of Donald Trump were either unintelligent or uninformed, and they were dorks. And two, he said that let me get this straight, not Joe Biden, but Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama had secured the border and done a better job of immigration. And that's what J.D. Vance then called him. He was quite right about that, J.D. He said those are factually incorrect. Donald Trump inherited 12 million illegal aliens, and he has zero. On some months, he has zero interest, either Barack Obama nor what Hillary Clinton said she was going to do, nor Bill Clinton ever had served. Both of them eventually supported mass-scale amnesties, dreamers, whatever you want to call them. Trump did not. And then more importantly, Trump deported more criminals than either one of them. It's true that before Trump's second term, Barack Obama deported more, but they counted people who were turned away at the border as deportations. And that wasn't so in Trump's cases, in every case at least. And then he addressed the dorks. And I don't know, I thought that was, when he said they're unintelligent and uninformed, there's been a lot of studies that show that people who watch, say, Fox News know more about world events than CNN. That Rush Limbaugh used to quote the data all the time, and talk radio in particular. And I think, when Johnny on Jesse Waters was at the beach and he talks to people, or he talks to people in the street and they know nothing, I don't think he's really getting a lot of conservative people there. I think he's getting college students.
Yeah.
Yeah, the academy. They're not conservative, I think not, because if he talked to people from Thomas Aquinas, Hillsdale, they would talk his head off with data and facts and analysis. So that I didn't. And then he says they're dorks, but that was kind of a weird word to use because they have been libeled by the left as.
With our express store, you can search inventory online and get our pricing up front. Select payment options, get a firm trade offer, and add service and protection plans. Complete your entire purchase from home in a matter of minutes.
I think I can sell my shit.
Pick your car up from the dealership. Start shopping our express store today.
Soon, you'll finally see her.
Yeah. One that surrendered, but I don't know if he bled out or he just ran away. I think he just ran away.
Guns and religion, we call them deplorables and irredeemables. Those are all epithets.
Yeah.
Mark Caputo for CNN said that there was more teeth. He had more teeth than all the people at a Trump rally.
Yeah.
I guess it was Peter Strzok who texted to Lisa Page. He could smell them. Whatever those terms of disparagement are not dorky. They're kind of tough guy, or they're, you know what I mean? They like guns. I didn't know what he meant by dorks.
Usually when you hear a dog barking like that, it means there's a camp nearby.
When I hear these people on the left,
Yeah.
I want them to be a stereotypical.
Do a little scout.
If I was searching for a stereotypical characterization, I'd say they had spaghetti arms
Yeah.
and native voices, or they sounded like they were an Indian. And, if you listen to talk radio and the guy is Trump, it's, hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, if you listen to NPR, So Beatty called him up, and he kind of did it lightheartedly. You got it wrong on immigration.
August.
Dorks. He said there's dorks in any group, but we have fewer than anybody. And then another call, right, to Netanyahu. That is more interesting. And supposedly he yelled at Netanyahu for providing false information that gave an unrealistically optimistic picture of the resistance that would rise up. Sort of what people during the Iraq War, I think it was Richard Pearl.
If I remember correctly,
Be greeted
there
as
is a
liberators.
treasure
And people got
right outside the town,
That was more problematic because, first of all,
I think.
I don't think, and you correct me, and maybe your listeners will nod or agreement or shake their head no, but I don't think any vice president calls a head of
Another
state
time.
without the prior permission of the president. So when he called Netanyahu and blamed him, it almost echoed what Trump inadvertently said about Pete
over here.
Hegseth. He said he's the one that really wanted to go in.
Yeah.
And that suggests to me that Trump feels like he thought it was going to be a 3-week rather than, I think it'll be a 6-week. We're going into week 4. And 6 weeks could be 6 weeks. And he regrets that length of it. I'm not sure that he regrets going in there. I think it's been a spectacularly, on the military side, we can get into that, absolutely wonderful.
I think it's a treasure
Explanation, I think, needs work.
on one of the maps that I have on me.
Excuse me, Victor, we have Venezuela.
Yeah, this guy.
Get out of here. There's no place for the likes of you.
Yes. I think what he
Oh, you don't want to talk?
Yes. What he needs to say is this, just in the parentheses.
Get out of
He
here.
said, I didn't say I was against war or conflict. I said I was against endless forever wars. And I'm talking about 20 years in Afghanistan and 10 in Iraq and the 9-month bombing on and off of Libya by Obama. And so when I came in, I wasn't going to say no war because our enemies would take that as Chamberlain-like appeasement and they would take advantage of it. So I had certain rules, opportunistic.
I think it might
rules, that I would
be a
use
grave.
mostly, if not exclusively, air power. And I would take out existential
Or just
threats
something
like
buried.
Soleimani, who was the architect of the
It's been so long since I played this game.
and I wanted to get rid of Baghdadi, who had killed Westerners and beheaded them, and then I wanted to bomb ISIS. And I did all of that quickly and abruptly. And then we were attacked by the Wagner. I told my field commanders to reply disproportionately and wipe them out. I think they killed over 200. All of those were not forever. They were one-off. Then I was elected again. And I followed my campaign promises. I went in to Iraq and to Iran in 26 hours of mission, and I bombed the nuclear facilities at 3 sites, and then it was a one-off. I said, make Iran great, we'll negotiate. And then I went and got Maduro. We lost no U.S. soldiers. We had some serious wounded. But, again, now I'm in a much more formidable situation. None of those scenarios involved the specter of intercontinental ballistic missiles, massive drone fleets, terrorist proxies, nuclear weapons. And so I'm going to try to abide by my no forever rule. I'm going in there for 6 weeks if that's what it takes. It's not forever. And I'm going to try to avoid the use of ground troops. Marco Rubio said he wasn't going to use them, if possible. And so that's what he needs to say. This is not, it's not going to be 9 months or 7 months or 8 months like Obama did with Libya. So he needs to say that. And then he needs to reiterate what he said on March 1st and March 20th. He said we had certain agendas. And that was to get rid of the nuclear threat.
Get out, you bastard, or I shan't hold back.
Get it? The ballistic missile and drone threat, he's working on that. The proxy subsidies to Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas, I think he's pretty much finished that. And then to stop the anti-American killing and terrorism of Iran and as a threat to the stability of the Middle East. I think he's empowered not just Israel, basically the Gulf states, they will be armed.
Oh, he wants a fist fight.
They will rearm very quickly to the degree they haven't lost any of their offensive capabilities in Iran. And then regime change. And said, he never said I'm going to go in there and throw out the government. He said help is coming. Sometimes in the moods of enthusiasm,
Quitting?
to get rid of this guy. And you just need to say, ideally, the threat will end when the regime is gone. I have tried to do my best within the confines of not engaging in a horrible war to empower the resistance, resisting the destruction that we, the Israeli Air Force,
Oh, you little bitch.
Well landed.
to Iran will help that cause. Maybe not now, maybe in a month, but eventually it has weakened that regime internally, and that was the reason I have tuned this. And I would like to see regime change, but that is not why we are fighting this war. And that's all he has to say.
Here's a secret tip hackers don't want you to know. With this app called malware, your phone or any other device will be protected 24/7. It has a web blocker that keeps you safe from phishing sites and fake links, a VPN that keeps your browsing private, and an ad blocker that those annoying ads. It even protects you from identity by sending you alerts if your data is being illegally traded or sold across the dark web. The best part is it's so simple to use that everyone can do it. Don't wait until it's too late. Get malware bites now and keep your data safe from hackers. Like your day-here plans. Even with bad or no service, get faster through the apply online in just 5 minutes. If you're not at any of our 7 locations in Arizona, your next car is waiting.
It's very rare for the United States to have a capable ally. Israel is capable. The so-called big powers of NATO themselves have these huge populations of 80 million, 60 million, 55 million. They don't have the air capability that tiny Israel does. And right now, they are fighting side by side with us, and those 300 planes are being used every day to take out the ability of the Iranians to do what? Fund the people who've killed Americans and make sure they do not send missiles toward Europe. We have a very strong ally in Israel. We have some unreliable allies in our former
Poaching is
alliance.
illegal.
We should remember that before we start making accusations that the Jews or the Israelis are pulling the strings of American diplomacy and military decision making.
No, he might have something worse on him.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hansen for the Daily Signal. There's been a lot of talk in connection with the ongoing Iran war about our allies. Specifically, people are
Got some leather gloves
suggesting that
on that are
Israel
worth
has an
200.
inordinate role to play in our decision to attack the theocracy in Iran. And there's even posters going around of Israeli puppeteers and we're the puppets, which is kind of ironic when we're a country of 340 million people and Israel is tiny and 11 million. And they, of course, don't direct American foreign policy. But
They never attacked me,
before I
dude.
get to Israel, I'd like to talk about our other allies. Here we are.
If I'd whipped out my hammer, I probably would have destroyed him
with
like
Iran, and
immediately.
It's a 47-year war. They have attacked our embassies in Beirut, Kenya, Tanzania. They blew up our Marines, 241 deaths in Beirut. You've Kobar Towers, they killed people. They've sent assassination teams all over the world, killed a lot of Jewish people. In Argentina, they tried to kill
Dogwood hunting bow.
National Security Advisor John Bolton, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Donald Trump. It's not true that they only killed 600 Americans with shape charges. I think most
Lucky
people
playing guy
in the military that were
and a hunting cap
acquainted with that It's more like
Recipes for
1,500
Nighthawk Potion and The Joy of
1,000
Gutting.
named, and it was not just in Iraq, it was also in Afghanistan.
That book is worth
In other
over
words, they sent shaped
1,300
charges into
groschen.
the
That's
hands
crazy.
of Islamic militants who used them in a variety of ways, specifically IEDs
So I
to
just
kill
scored.
Americans. That went unanswered as well. They've taken hostages. They killed 41 Americans, their surrogates Hamas did on October 7th. Of the 1,200 Israelis that were butchered,
Yeah.
women, older people, 41 were American citizens. I could go on, but we've been in a 47-year war with this country since its birth in 1979. And remember, it was birthed on one fact. It took over the American embassy and took our diplomatic personnel as hostages. That was never really replied to. And now they have bragged negotiations. They had an out. They had an out. Just don't make a bomb. Don't keep giving $50 million a year to a month to Hezbollah, $50 million to Hamas, or $50 million to the Houthis. Just don't do that. And they wouldn't do it. So here we are in a war, and now we're blaming many people in the United States, Israel, as the instigator. But I'd like to talk, as I said, about our other allies. First, Spain has already announced that we could not use the NATO base near Gibraltar, a key base that governs traffic in and out of the Mediterranean. We cannot use it for operations against Iran. In other words, they're saying that we don't want any part in this war.
Damn, he's only got
and
7
the United States
gold
cannot
on him?
use this base, which is supposed to be for
I need to
NATO
find out a better place
operations.
to sell stuff.
NATO has been on the record of
I will buy these lockpicks off
criticizing
him, though.
Iran and saying it should denuclearize. This is kind of ironic. Spain did the same thing. If you remember, in 1986, it told Ronald
If you've
Reagan,
gotten your Savior
if you're going to
snack yet,
hit
get
Libya,
two of
you
those.
cannot fly over our territory from bases in England. I think it cost them about 2,500. France did the same thing. Can't fly over the Iberian Peninsula. 2,500-mile detour for us to do that. They've been very vocal that they will not meet their 5% armament. They barely,
Let's have a word
think
about the
they've
price.
quite met the 2% unless they did it recently. Then we turn to France. France has already said from the very beginning that this was a dangerous war, basically wanted no part in it.
Satisfied?
The most surprising, though, is the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, under Prime Minister Stormer, has said that they cannot use that key base for long-range bomber operations in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. England has always allowed us to do that, but they said we can only use it for defensive operations. What does that mean? What does it mean when you fly into Iran to stop them from shooting missiles at the Emirates or Israel? That's an offensive operation. It was incoherent. And then, in addition, it decided it would keep away from, it wouldn't really weigh in. And then when it had a base in
There's some
Cyprus that
blacksmith
was
that
hit,
sells shit around here.
or was going to be hit, targeted, then
This
all
guy?
of a sudden
Oh, shit.
the UK said,
Shit,
well,
shit,
we'll
shit. I
send
didn't mean to do it.
one destroyer, but
Sorry,
we're not even able to
sorry.
send it for the weekend because we don't want to pay overtime pay. What's going on with our allies? Does Mr. Stormer remember the 1982 Falkland Wars? Remember the Falklands? Argentina took it. Britain wanted to go halfway around the world. They didn't have the wherewithal to do it. We didn't really want to offend an Argentine, even though there was a dictatorship in Latin America. We were trying to create a solidarity in our backyard. The dictatorship in Argentina was reprehensible, but not as reprehensible as the Iranian dictatorship. And what did we do? Al Haig, our Secretary of State, said we should triangulate. Reagan said no. Give them 2 million gallons of gas. They're out of gas. They'll be stranded. Give them satellite reconnaissance. Give them 200 Sidewinder missiles. Give them anything they want. If they lose a carrier, you give a United States Marine carrier and give it to them. It was just a blank check to Margaret Thatcher. Did they forget that? Because they're going to remember it, because we're not going to do that again in extremis from what they have done. Germany, well, no need to talk about Germany. Chancellor Merz was in the White House. He kind of had a hangdog look. He had a hangdog look because a week or two earlier, into a huge crowd in Germany, he was trashing the United States and Trump himself.
Bird is built to perform. Good day to you. Selling floor jacks to sockets, ratchets, and shop equipment.
I've taken care of that cab.
Have you brought me proof?
Here it is.
Good work. Well done.
Damn, he gave me a lot of
I've
caution
received
for that.
another report. Some folk were ambushed by the Talbot Creek on the way towards Eagles. I reckon it'd be worth a look there.
All right, I'll take a look around.
Whataburger Jr. for $5. Add fries and a drink for a little more. Now that's a what a deal at What a Burger.
I'd like to get better at fighting with... I'm interested in more of...
All right, but it'll cost you.
Then we get to Israel. Besides, Israel is the only
180?
democratic
Damn.
Isn't that
consensual
quite a lot?
government in the Middle East that has been a lifelong friend of the United States, that has
About
provided
150.
essential
No, that's gonna be
intelligence to us about our enemies and the people who have been
Really?
killing us, such as Hamas on October 7th
Well,
and
there are more, and
Hezbollah
we'll shake
for
up.
40 years. We haven't replied to them effectively. We've sent some
That would be
battleship
effective.
shells under
Agreed.
Reagan. We've done
Now,
a
listen
few
up.
things, but they are the ones that have taken out our enemies. And by the way, it's very rare for the United States to have a capable ally. Israel is capable. I'll give you one example. If you count all of the planes that are ready to fly, jet fighters,
All right,
Britain
well,
has,
see y'all later, turkey.
Israel has more, a lot more, 100 more. If you count all the planes that France does, 200, Israel has 300. If you count the planes that Germany has, 150. Israel has 300. What I'm getting at is the so-called big powers of NATO themselves, with these huge populations of 80 million, 60 million, 55 million, they don't have the air capability that tiny Israel does. And right now, they are fighting side by side with us, and those 300 planes are being used every day to take out the ability of the Iranians to do what?
I'm gonna go to
Fund the
Egypt.
people who killed Americans.
Hopefully I'll find a blacksmith that'll buy my
Houthis,
loot.
make sure they do not send missiles toward Europe. Remember Barack Obama? He gave
No, that's
missile defense away in 2012 in Seoul in that quid pro quo with the Russian government. That missile defense was aimed at protecting Europe from a
That camp
potential
is on the
ballistic
way,
missile
too.
attack from where? Iran.
I gotta sell
In
this shit first
conclusion,
before I
we
go do
have a
that.
very strong ally in Israel. It's one of the most capable countries in the world, and we have some unreliable allies in our formal alliance. We should remember that before we start making accusations that the Jews or the Israelis are pulling the strings of American diplomacy and military decision making. Thank you very much. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Signal. Please like, share, and subscribe to be notified for more content like this. You can also check out my own website at victorhansen.com and subscribe for exclusive features in addition.
TurboTax gets your refund fast. Like, really fast. Get your refund up to 5 days earlier than the IRS. Now this is Texas.
We're starting to see something a little strange in California as of right now. State polls show that to replace Gavin Newsom as governor in our jungle primary, the two leading contestants, Chad Dean, a sheriff from Riverside County, and Steve Hilton, a former Fox commentator, entrepreneur, and naturalized U.S. citizen. Britain are neck and neck of us at 17, Bianco is supposedly at 16, and then the next two candidates, 13 and 12, are Eric Swalwell, we know the Fang notorious incident, and then Kathleen Porter, we know the incident. The Democrats, remember, made this system because it's such a blue state. They would just swarm
Yeah.
And then the next two candidates, 13 and 12, are Eric Swalwell, we know Fang Fang notorious incident, and then Kathleen Porter. Kathleen Porter, we know from the incident where she was caught abusing one of her staffers and screaming at him at one on tape. The Democrats, remember, made this system thinking that they would, because it's such a blue state, they would just swarm
Alchemy bench.
the ballot with viable Democrats, and the
And
contending
herbalist.
Democrats would be the first and second
Wonder what she's
candidate
got
on the
for
general
sale.
election ballot.
Really
There wouldn't
sells.
be any Republicans at all.
Do you sell
This is
stuff?
kind of backfired. We don't know how long it's
God
going
watch
to
over you good
last.
night,
A lot of
especially
people
in
think
these
that
dark times.
the Democrats
Can I do
have so
something for you?
gerrymandered elections, local elections.
I'm looking for a fellow who
statewide
lives here, but I don't know his
elections,
name.
and federal elections.
Do you know anyone with a link?
Such money
There is
every
one,
side,
a
and
crooked
there's such,
bastard is too.
let's call it
I hope you're here to
balloting
take him away.
irregularities, and we
He
have
lives
the
in a
highest
cottage at
number
the
of
end of the
claimants.
village
It's
by the road
impossible
to Bachelor.
for these two candidates to win, either one of them, but
Would you teach me something
thing to
about
remember
medicinal
is
herbs?
that they're leading.
Certainly.
This is unheard of, and it's a direct response to
I'd like to practice the
Gavin
basics.
Newsom. Gavin Newsom,
All right,
remember,
but it'll
was on
cost
the
you.
Board of Supervisors of San Francisco County. Then he
Isn't
was
that
mayor
quite a
of
lot?
San Francisco. Then he was lieutenant governor of the state. And now he's been governor for 5 years. He's been in continuous public
Since it's you.
office for almost
Come
30
now,
years.
just a little more and we have a deal.
No one in elected office is more responsible for what California
Agreed.
is today, whether you
Now,
believe it's great
listen
or
up.
awful. Whatever your opinion of the status of the state is, Gavin Newsom deserves the credit. So, he wants to run for president, I guess, on the agenda that I want to do for the United States.
Yeah, she's got all kinds of posters.
That's going to be very hard, Gavin. We have the highest income taxes. We have among the highest sales taxes. We have the highest gas taxes. We have the greatest number of homeless people. One out of every three.
That's a poison.
1 out of every 3 people who are admitted.
That's probably why it's got like a Reaper scythe on it.
Hospital have diabetes. 1 out of 3 people in the United States who are on public assistance are in California.
She's got hers.
We have the highest
A book I can read
taxes.
to get my
We're
skill
in
up.
the bottom 10% of schools based on
Recipe for
San
armor
Francisco
potion.
recently had the highest poverty
Amor potion.
crime rates per capita in the nation. It's not
Bane
safe in
potion.
Los Angeles, California, San Francisco, Fresno,
Damn, I gotta remember where she is.
all of these major cities. More importantly, there's been a lot of, I guess you would call
Right
it,
at the
acts
town,
of
right,
omission
whatever.
and acts of commission. Gavin Newsom is not concerned with the effect of what his policies about fire prevention, which are basically green policy to let things burn in a national society. So we've had horrific forest fires. We've had the Pacific Palisades fire where nothing can be rebuilt.
Yeah.
They wiped out the Pacific Palisades neighborhood. These fires due to human culpability, and apparently their larger agenda is to drive out these wealthy people, not let them rebuild their single-family wealthy homes, and put more density on, I guess, the underserved. But the next thing to remember is that we have the highest out-migration. About 300,000 people a year leave California. We know who they are. They're the upper middle class, professional class, and the very wealthy, especially with the new billionaire tax that's envisioned that the legislature is pushing through.
Yeah.
Then we have the action
No!
over commission. Think about it. We have 3 ways to get from the
Damn,
south
that frickin' branch derailed me.
101,
Fuck
the
me.
99, and the federal I-5. None of them have 3 lanes in each direction unimpeded. They all have either 2 lanes for fast expansions like the I-5, parts of 101, or they have bottlenecks as in the 99. And so the 99 freeway is the most dangerous
Yeah.
highway driven per mile in the United States. American because
There
it's
it
a
is.
disaster. So what is his strategy? His strategy is
This is
no
a big
one
town.
hates Donald Trump and the MAGA movement more than I do. So
Okay,
President
there's a
Lee
traitor.
brings, he goes to some social media team and he says in the most
Subscribe.
vulgar way, I want to smash his mouth. He goes to a security conference overseas, tells the Europeans you have knee pads as if you performed a sex act on them. He says to Christine Elmer, former Secretary of Transportation, you're going to have a bad day, which is, many people felt was a direct threat. We've got a crusading young 23-year-old journalist who's exposed the Somali fraud, which may be the biggest in our history, could approach $9 billion in stolen state and federal funds. Now he's in Los Angeles and he's looking at all sorts of fraud, from hospice care to autism to just general welfare entitlement programs that don't exist but funnel money to Democratic constituencies who in turn support Democratic candidates. And what's Gavin Newsom? Are they crazy, Mr. Story? They say, Nick, surely you're doing a great job. We've come to California to find out. No. He did the crudest thing possible. He sent out a social media message implying a photograph and the caption that this young man was a pedophile, that he was looking for young kids to sexually molest. That was the implication. That's who is now governor.
These guys fighting? Yeah, they are,
He's
aren't they?
never had a private job that he got on his own. It was the creation of the Getty family and his own well-connected parents. He's been in office for 30 years, and he's overseen all of these disasters. High-speed rail, it's going to, it was originally forecasted 40 billion. We're going to very soon get up to 40 billion, and we will not have 1 inch of track laid. We will never, probably ever have a high-speed rail beyond Bakersfield to Merced, which will lose money every year, and yet we keep pouring billions into it while these critical freeways are neglected. We have a green agenda, and yet the Monterey battery storage plant, which is essential to capture solar-generated electricity for nighttime use, has blown up twice.
Just sells
We
books.
had a big $2 billion solar plant in the Mojave Desert. It's being dismantled. It's inefficient and it's harmful to wildlife. It's been dismantled. What could save us? We have about the 5th highest of the 50 states reserves in gas and oil. What's Gavin Newsom doing? He's fighting the federal government that wishes us to expand oil production. Where does California get their gas? Well, they get it from oil. Well, where does the oil come from? The oil comes mostly from Saudi Arabia and is imported, and the gas has to be imported, our special blend, from Japan. He's driven out 2 refineries, and we will see this year,
That is a
I should
traitor
say
in
this
here.
summer, gas
This is
is
it.
somewhere between $7 and $9 a gallon. And one thing we know about Gavin Newsom,
Nope.
will he take credit for that, responsibility for it? Will he say, this is what happened, and be accurately descriptive and honest? And there's no way. He will blame Donald Trump and the Iran war. That's who wants to be the President of the United States, and that's who wants to do for the United States what he did for California. Beware. Thank you very much.
That's the traitor.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Signal. Please like, share, and subscribe to be notified
I'm at your
for more
service.
content like this. You can also check out my own website at victorhansen.com.
I'm looking for a fellow who lives here, but I don't know his name. Do you know anyone with a limp?
What would you want with him? Well, it's no skin of my nose. The bastard has a cottage on the edge of the village by the road to Rattay.
Good luck to you.
At Raising Cane's, we focus on making the most crispy chicken finger meals, getting them right every time. That's why we hand batter every chicken finger, mix every cane sauce, butter every Texas toast, stir every slaw, salt every fry, squeeze every lemon, and brew every ounce. We do this inside every Raising Cane's, every day. Because when you do it right, you can taste it in every
These midterms are going to be different than most midterms because the Democratic Party is different. It's not the Democratic Party. It's a Jacobin, neo-socialist, radical clique. And if Donald Trump loses the House, within a week he will be impeached. And those impeachment hearings will go on for weeks and months. They will make the shutdown look like nothing. So they will derail his agenda. Donald Trump is in a race to get the message out that the economy is much better than the Biden economy. It's going to get much better, but if everything works out the way that he had planned and he does the right thing, right around midterm time, the economy is going to take off. America is going through a higher education transformation where students are realizing that what they want and need is a place that doesn't stifle their intellectual freedom. Standing out among the few graduate programs that value viewpoint diversity is Pepperdine's University School of Public Policy. I've taught the last 2 years. Their Masters of Public Policy is both applied and practical, preparing the next generation of leaders to participate in government agencies, the business sector, and think tanks. Pursue your MPP at Pepperdine. Daily Signal listeners qualify for an automatic 50 to 75% tuition scholarship and can learn more at go.pepperdine.edu/dailysignal. It's go.pepperdine.edu/dailysignal. Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. There's been a lot of talk about affordability. That's a new word for the generation between 20 and 40 who feel stifled or their careers are derailed because they cannot afford a house, they cannot afford a vacation, they cannot afford health care, and this involves questions of the economy. It's a very strange logic that
May
the
the Lord
left
watch
and
over
the
you.
Democrats are making, though. It goes something like this. For 4 years, we had hyperinflation reaching 9.1% in 2022, but averaging over 5%. And Donald Trump should be blamed for having 2.6 to 2.7% inflation in his first 10 months because he didn't arrest the hyperinflation that we caused. And therefore, we should be able to either stop him in the Congress or in 2028 take over because we have policies that created hyperinflation and the prices have not gone down under Donald Trump. He should have had a not just moderate inflation, but no inflation like us. So in other words, they're blaming Donald Trump for not correcting quickly enough the mistakes that they've made. There's another question, though.
Can we do something about
the
the
Trump
price?
economy is what I
Aye.
would call in a race because it has 1 year before the referendum of the midterms comes due. These midterms are going to be different than most midterms because the Democratic Party is different. It's not the
Here.
Democratic Party. It's a
And
Jacobin,
something for your trouble.
neo-socialist, radical
Thanks 1,000
clique.
times.
And if Donald Trump loses the House, within a week he will be impeached. And those
he didn't have a whole lot of money.
hearings will go on for weeks and
Shot
months.
for him.
They will make the shutdown.
I need to find a
like
blacksmith.
nothing.
That's the guy that's got the money.
They will derail his agenda. So it's how does he
Oh,
prevent
good old
that?
Peasant.
Well, first of all, we have a pretty good
Shall I steal it?
economy. Inflation is 2.6 to 2.9. It's probably going to be 3 for the year. We don't know. GDP will probably be 3% for the year. Although the Atlantic Federal Reserve Bank says it could get up to 4%. The stock market is at an all-time high. All of the media news that we were told in the spring was going to destroy the economy turned out to be incorrect. We did not have
That's where I can get a sleep in the bed.
war that destroyed the international commercial system. We did not have a trade war with China that destroyed that dependence on each has upon the other. We did not have a stock market collapse. Indeed, it's at all-time, as I said, record highs. We did not have a recession that we were told about.
What's going on, guys? This is Second Opinion Plumbing. We are out here today doing a hammering job for a client. So we are currently on the roof. We're going
blacksmith
Got hired for
area.
social media? There you go, perfect. All right.
Looking for tool storage that's both affordable and built to last? Choose the trusted durability of U.S. General from Harbor Freight. Whether you're looking for complete storage solutions, wall cabinets, carts, or accessories for your garage, U.S. General has it all. With a full selection of colors, customization options, parts, trays, and more. You can build
I'm
your
looking for
setup
the
just
local
the way
brew.
you want.
Where can I find it?
See
Has
why
something
U.S.
hit you on the
General is
head,
trusted
boy?
across America.
Where do you
U.S.
think
General.
you'll find a brew, for Christ's sakes? Ask at the stable. Take care now.
I'm looking for a fellow who lives here, but I don't know his name. Do you know anyone with a limp?
Hi, there is one fellow over here. Can't imagine what you want with the likes of him, but that's your affair. He lives in a cottage on the edge of the village, by the road to North.
You pump 1 million extra barrels in 10 months, and the price of gasoline last week was $2.98 gallons. It was up 3.46 that they're buying on average. That's a spectacular achievement to lower the gas price by almost 50 cents. But that is not getting out. And the next thing you have to do is to remind people that the left
Where
is
is the
waiting
blacksmith?
to stop you in this race so that this economy stalls before the midterms. And how do they do that? They do it by having the longest shutdown in government history. It was incoherent what Democrats did. I mean, they had voted again and again in the past for continuing resolutions. Barack Obama had given impassioned speeches on the immorality and wrongness, almost illegality of shutting the government down just because you lost elections and did not achieve a majority in the House. And of course, we were told when Obamacare came in 2010, it wouldn't need subsidies. Almost immediately, it was revealed what people had feared. It was a bankrupt idea, and it needed $1 billion subsidies. And the Democrats got that through, and they put a sunset clause in it. They would end after a while when Obamacare reportedly, allegedly, maybe would become more market-driven. That never happened. So for that, all those reasons, they shut down government. But that wasn't the real reason. The real reason, if it was not to cause chaos with government workers in Virginia during this recent election, more importantly, it was to slow down the economy. The same thing is true about Jerome Powell. That for some reason, members of the Fed that determine the interest rates do not want the interest rate to be lowered so that people could obtain a 30-year mortgage, 15-year mortgage for 4 to 5% and buy a home. I don't know why that's true, but it is true because there are no indications that we are in a hyperinflationary mood as happened during Biden. Inflation is tolerable. Growth is good, but not too robust to cause inflation. There's some indication with tariff revenue and DOGE cuts that the deficits are being managed, not growing. So there is no reason not to raise the interest rates. And Donald Trump is fighting the Fed, he's fighting the lockdown, and he's fighting this media narrative that he caused hyperinflation, that we're going into a recession, etc. What does he have to do? It's pretty obvious in the next year. Trump must say this was what the Biden record was for 4 years. This is someone there.
Yeah.
This is what the Biden record led me.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to do. And then he has to finally
That must be a
articulate
cottage area.
his agendas are longer term. They're not short term. By that I mean he is vastly expanding federal leases.
Yeah.
He's vastly deregulating the departments of Interior and Energy. We've already in 10 months increased oil production by 1 million barrels, but he'll probably go up to 2 or 3 million barrels.
Hell was that?
That's going to have a dramatic effect on energy prices by lowering them. He's also pushing more natural gas use and electrical generation and
Yeah.
going to be subsidizing inefficient and costly wind and solar projects as we have some effect. We have never deported
Butcher.
in our history 2 million people, either by coercion or self-deportation. We did this year, and we will next year. That will mean 3, 4 to 5 million probably people who are not only not on social welfare programs that are costly at the state, local, and national level, but they will not be taking jobs from Americans. You'll have 4 or 5 million people out of the workforce and be out of the workforce. That will have a great effect on the economy. There are new technologies, AI, robotics, genetic engineering, as I said, many nuclear plants. All of these technologies have been green-lighted, and Silicon Valley entrepreneurs are all on board with it. They will start to kick in. If a third of Donald Trump's $15 trillion in foreign investment is reaffirmed, actualized, that will start to have
That's where the horse trader is.
effects. The tariffs have brought in $400 billion projected by maybe 400 to 500 billion dollars. In the last year of the Biden administration, there was only 77 billion. If Donald Trump takes that 400 billion and applies it to the deficit rather than gives a check for, I don't know, 200 million people $2,000, then that will have a strong effect on markets and Wall Street and bonds. And the president is really using $400 billion of
I
tariff
gotta do
revenue
something, man.
to
Fucking shit.
reduce the deficit and stop the amount of deficit on federal debt toward GDP ratio. That will be very reassuring to investors. Bottom line,
No, I just got a text message from my boss.
Trump is in a race to get the message out that the economy
I
is
gotta go
much
help
better
him
than
something.
the Biden administration.
Probably take
It's
me an
going
hour.
to get much better. And don't believe
Come back
the
after
media,
that.
because the media, like the Democratic shutdown, like the Federal Reserve, artificially, this artificial